What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and bringing another little nugget to add to the Soul Tribe archive. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Sun in Sagittarius in the 6th house, and this is kind of a mixed one for the Sun to be in. Now, when you talk about that mighty sun, the sun is the higher light of the mind. It's the, you can think of it as, in one way, as the soul. You know, the thing that gives this body purpose and action and intention. You know, there's the sun is also how we shine our brightest. You know, it can bring this sense of leadership and recognition. You know, notable figures with the sun. It's also very closely tied in with the father as well. And the sun, you know, surprisingly enough, is the lord of the day sect. So that's something to keep in mind, especially if you have a day chart, to have that, you know, connection with the sun and see how you relate to that sun placement is important. And then when you talk about Sagittarius, they're ruled by Big Papa, Jupiter. And they are the mutable fire sign, and they are active or yang in nature. And I think that there is, you know, the fire is really, really alive and churning in Sagittarius. It's always moving. And I think that's where, with Sagittarius, there's this sense of there's something always bigger, better, brighter, you know, that enthusiasm for life. You know, I think that Jupiter gives that sense of just more, you know, and I think that that's where that abundant, you know, just kind of natural effervescent quality comes from Sagittarius, and, you know, kind of infectious and, again, enthusiasm that I think has the ability to light the fire in others as well. There's a strong leadership quality with the fire signs, but it's amazing, I think, what Sag can do and how it can inspire and kind of light that fire of others, and just, again, like the questers, the adventures of the zodiac for me. And then when you talk about the 6th house, this is a tough house. This was known in ancient astrology as the house of bad fortune, and it's one of the Caden houses. And some of the themes that the 6th house covers are going to deal with, like illnesses, injuries, subordinates, work, even like small, or just like pets. There's another theme that can come up with the 6th house. So when your work enemies is another thing. So when you're working with this placement, another thing, or a couple of things to consider. One, you would have a Cancer rising by whole sign, and you're going to want to look to Big Papa, because Jupiter is going to rule this house and your 9th house, which deals with like travel, especially like foreign places, foreigners. You can deal with like education, religion, beliefs, spirituality, things of that nature. And then the sun is going to import the themes of the 2nd house into this house, which deals with like your finances, personal, like kind of your personal finances, livelihood, and possessions. So one thing that I would talk about with this placement is really, one, having that good relationship with the body. Anytime we're dealing with like any kind of like 6th house, 1st house, 12th house themes, I like to take it to a point, really make it a point to, those are like my houses for like preventative maintenance. So taking that money, that money, and just investing in yourself, you know, finding, not just having a good relationship, of course, with like your healthcare practitioners and things, but having some things outside of, you know, that you're doing on a regular basis. Maybe you're working with some kind of herbs, you know, just being in general things of movement, whether you're going to the gym, whether you're working out at home, walking around the neighborhood, doing this with a friend, any sort of things like that. Because what ends up happening, if you don't take care of the body, then those finances are just going to be tied into just trying to, you know, take care of the thing. And you can't do anything if the body's not working, you know. And not to say that's entirely true, but you know what I mean? It's something where you got to keep up with the upkeep of this thing in order to maintain your livelihood, to bring in your resources, to make those possessions. And that may be something too where, with that sun, maybe you feel called to take care of others, you know, when they're in that, you know, in times of injury or times of illness. So being in any sort of like healthcare, you know, or any sort of like healing modality, I think that would be a really kind of strong place for the sun and Sag to be, somewhere where it could, you know, that's where you can make a living off of doing, you know, in whatever ways that are doing. And again, that doesn't have to be in just like going in the medical field. Maybe you just happen to know some cool like little tips and tricks. Maybe you have some tea remedies, or maybe have some, maybe make some salves, or whatever that happens to, whatever that happens to look like. I think that that could be very, very kind of beneficial for this kind of sun placement. And thinking about what it is that you want to do. How do you want to be accumulating your resources? The work that you're doing. Do you see yourself kind of, do you just want to work? Do you see yourself kind of managing people? Are you managing your own kind of business? There's a lot of, I think this Sag placement, I think it's a matter of imagination with this one, and how you invest in that, as far as like whatever it is that you feel called to do. But do pay attention to, especially when you notice like areas that do feel stagnant, because it's not just all about the money, where the money is all, we need those resources. But I think the sun and Sag needs something that's not just money, but enlivening as well, something with a sense of purpose. So that may be something that kind of comes up there. And of course, when we're talking about those sixth house themes, there may be themes of like enemies. You may have a way of, sun and Sag. I can see that as being a great worker, being someone that, kind of shines, that's trying to bring up the energies. And you may come against some dissonance, with that sixth house sometimes. That I think those are things that can happen. Maybe there's a jealousy over like, how much you happen to make or something along those lines, real petty stuff. That's why I think like sixth house things kind of open up, sort of like open pettiness and things like that. And it could be other things as well, but that would just be another thing to kind of keep, maybe something to pay attention to. Pets, that might be something that is very kind of closely intertwined with this. Maybe could be just like working with animals, maybe like a vet or something like that, or just even just kind of having your own pets. The money's gonna go, the money's gonna go into taking care of those pets. So that may just be something else that, or maybe something, maybe you happen to have a really cute pet, and maybe it happens to, animals can get some kind of employment too. The sixth house is like working pets. So maybe you get yourself an animal that got a real photogenic. Maybe someone gets on the front of some cans. However that process looks. So something to think about. But yeah, this is I think a really interesting placement. And again, whether it's, I think that work and how you're making your possessions, again, I think is going to be something that is really important. And making sure, again, just to kind of take care of yourself and what you're doing, and just kind of be mindful of that. But otherwise, I think this can be a really cool placement for the sun there. And I do think that if you do find yourself, however, if you're working in, like, if you're employed by someone, considering like areas of like management and things like that, again, I think the sun really shines there. I think fire signs are very inspirational. I think can do very well in the kind of workplace and things like that. But those would be just some kind of like base things that I would explore with someone with this placement. You definitely need the whole chart to get an idea of how this may be showing up for you. But if you have this placement or know someone who's working with this placement, down in the comment section, let us know how this has showed up for you. I always love hearing those stories, really seeing how the chart just really kind of comes to life there. And if you want to work with these, kind of dive into these placements and understand how to work more personally with them, in the description box, there is a link to book a consultation with me. It'll take you to a calendar link, and then follow those steps. But if you have any questions about the services that I provide, there's a link also for my email, so definitely feel free to reach out to me. There are also a couple of links for some playlists. One is for the Celestial News Weekly, which talks about the sun and all the other classical planets, what signs they're in, what zodiac signs are going to be most effective, and how to most practically work with those energies. And then the other one talks about the lunar astrology, which is the lunar shenanigans, and it goes about what sign the moon's in, what phase it's in, when it happens to be going void of course, and just to get a general feel of the energy through the week. So those are down there for you as well. But until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep raising that vibration through the roof. And I will catch you on the next one. Later.